Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome to video number 29 in our WhatsApp series. This story is known to us from Harav Yisachar Frand, and I adapted it from the compilations of Rabbi Yehuda Winselberg for his weekly emailings. I call it to sign or to not sign. Rabbi Gedalia Moshe Goldman, who would eventually succeed his father, Reb Shlomcha, as the Holy Zevhil Rebbe in Jerusalem, when he was young, was imprisoned in Siberia for a long term in a hard labor camp. He spent a horrible eight years there, backbreaking labor. The only thing that kept the prisoners going was they had each had limited terms. Nobody had a life sentence. But Rav Gedalia, in fact, Rav Gedalia Moshe almost died there. At one time, he was thrown in a pit as a punishment for a week without food. He was so weak, he didn't think he was going to make it. And a miracle occurred. A roll of bread fell into his mouth, directly into his mouth. In later years, when he would tell about it, he would say that it was a separate miracle that it fell into his mouth, because if it fell on the ground, he doesn't think he would have had the strength to pick it up, even if that would have saved his life. He was so weak. One Shabbat in 1937, he was summoned to the commandant's office. When he got there was another Jew there also, a much older man who was not in good health. The commandant said to them, "I have good news for you two. You're to be released early. All you have to do is sign these papers, and you can go." And Rav Gedalia Moshe quickly reached for the papers to sign, but then he stopped. He said, "Wait a moment. This is the Holy Shabbat. How can I sign? It's true. It would get me released from this horrible death place, this Gehenna, but." But on the other hand, it's not clearly a life-threatening situation. I'm young, only 27, and I'm relatively strong and healthy. I'm sure I can survive a few more years. So we said to the commandments, "Sir, I appreciate your kind offer, but I'm not able to accept. Today is our Sabbath, and on Sabbath we're not allowed to write." The Russian officer couldn't believe his ears. What? I'm offering to release you ahead of time, and you're telling me that you can't accept being released because you're not allowed to sign a paper because you can't write on your Sabbath? How can you let such an opportunity go by? Rav Gedalia remained calm, and he said, "Again, I appreciate your kindness, sir, but I have to refuse your offer. I cannot write on the Sabbath." The commander just threw up his hands in disgust. He turned to the older man and he said, "Well, at least you can sign your papers and you can go." But the older man thought to himself, and he said, "Look, if the rabbi didn't sign because it's the holy Shabbos, how can I sign, especially in front of him?" So he said to the commander, "Sir, I appreciate your kindness, but I'm also Jewish. I also am forbidden to write on Sabbath. I have to turn down your generous offer." The commander lost it. He just screamed at them, "The two of you are both insane. You're both going to rot here in prison for the rest of your lives, and here you'll die." And he started in disgust to get up and leave. But Rav Gedalia Moshe called out, Wait, I will sign for his papers." And the commander said, "What? What's going on here? You told me you're not allowed to write on your Sabbath. And now you say you'll sign his papers, but you won't sign your own papers. What's the difference between his papers and your papers that you're willing to sign his papers?" Rabbi Gedalia explained that look, I'm young and relatively healthy. I'm sure I can survive another few years here. But he is old and not healthy. I don't think he can make it much longer. I don't think he'll survive. Therefore, when I sign his papers, I'm saving his life. And to save another's life, it is permitted to violate the Sabbath. Well, the commandant was so impressed by this gesture of selflessness that he agreed to release them without requiring them to sign the papers. In 1937, Reb Gedalia Moshe was able to leave Russia and join his father, the Holy Zevhil Rebbe, in Jerusalem. When his father passed in 1945, he succeeded him to become the second Rebbe, but it was only for a few years because he passed away in 1948 during the War of Independence. And during the war, he was buried in the Arab section of town, which, if I remember correctly, was called Sheikh Badr, and which today is Givat Ram, right behind the university. And now his place has become a popular target of pilgrimage. There's hundreds of people there all throughout the year, and many miraculous salvations have been reported. It's also become a tradition to dance there after praying there, especially on his Yortzeit, the anniversary of his passing, which is on the 24th day of the Jewish month of Cheshvan.